Hello and welcome to ARC360's The Future in Focus digital event series. Before starting, we'd just like to thank our corporate partners, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, as well as our partners, Aztec, the Green Park Specialists, Indasa, Prasco, and the Innovation Group. Thanks, and we hope you enjoy the following webinar.
So a great session lined up today, the fifth session during this week, The Future in Focus. And we have Stephanie Crudgington, our Head of HR, ABL OneTouch, and we've got Mark Godfrey, Director, Strategy, Marketing and Automotive Division, Copart UK. All right, so before we go too far, again, the disclaimer. So the views and opinions expressed during the following webinar are those of the individual contributor and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the contributor's employer, organisation, committee or other group or individual. Please respect any all contributions and we encourage you to join the conversation via the interactive functions available. Okay, so let's jump back to it. Stephanie, Mark, good to see you guys. Thank you very much for taking the time to join us today to talk about, well, an absolute fundamental topic area, and one that's become increasingly, if you like, in the forefront of people's thinking in recent times, the challenges that we've all faced. So cultures, people and productivity. So Stephanie, come to you first. How's the world treating you first and foremost, and how's life at ABL OneTouch?
Amazing. What can I say? So yeah, we've actually in a really good place at the moment. Things have been, despite the pandemic, we've all pulled together across the business, all staff, people on furlough, people that haven't been on furlough. We're actually opening our 14th site on Monday. So exciting times.
Absolutely brilliant stuff. And look forward to hearing all about the business. And I know some of your colleagues have said to me, this is the subject to kind of catch you on today. So really passionate about this whole subject area. So look forward to hearing it. And Mark, plenty going on at Copart, and how's the world treating yourself personally and the business?
As always, I think plenty going on at Copart and with our customers. First of all, thank you for inviting us along. Appreciate the opportunity to, at least you've made up front that it's my own personal view about some of these subjects, so that keeps me safe back at the ranch if I say anything too controversial, but hopefully not. I think from our customers' point of view, first of all, feels like buoyancy and some positivity coming back to us. So we're all, I think, hoping that the lockdown easing continues and brings back whatever this new normal might be. We've been super busy doing a lot of technology, a lot of service, a lot of kind of digital transformation at Copart, at the same time as maintaining everything we've been doing for our customers. So COVID has been an interesting one for us because we were able to accelerate some of our digital transformation, get to contactless apps and the like, and from a business point of view, we haven't seen a huge drop off most recently in traffic and sales. So yeah, all feels really good, but we, like everyone probably on this call, we are really looking forward to lockdown easing.
Absolutely, yes. Here. I'm sure we can all second that. And again, I suppose just to set the scene from where we're at, very conscious, and we've just been talking just before we came on air. There are people at kind of completely opposite ends of the spectrum right now in terms of where business sits, mindset towards this whole thing. So the views and opinions, as already said, are ours kind of personally where we sit at the moment. So let's get back to you then, Stephanie. So again, just tell us a little bit more about the business. Very exciting times. 14th site, I think you mentioned there, which is great. So your role within ABL OneTouch, it's obviously a sort of growing business week by week, by day even. And specifically how your role translates to kind of our theme today, the cultures, the people and the productivity.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, probably the priority, not just my personal view, I think the view of the business is that the priority of my role is to protect the culture, to develop the culture, to ensure the culture is maintained so that it's an attractive place where people want to work. So looking after our current employees, but also making it attractive for people to want to come and work for us. And I know, as a HR function, there's lots of other things involved, but the priority, it is culture. It's the one thing that I'm just really passionate about, and the business is really passionate about. And we've done a lot, which we will get into later on, I'm sure. We've done a lot of work on culture, and because it's the centre of everything that we do.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, how many people are in the business now, Stephanie?
Just over 200 now.
Wow.
I think that's probably going to go up slightly in the next few weeks, but yeah, just over 200.
Fantastic. And again, just to, I suppose, apply some context for those who don't know, ABL One Touch, big private equity backing, tail end of last year, wasn't it? Yeah, in December last year,
Mobius, private equity company, invested in our future, which was actually really reassuring. And considering we'd gone through a pandemic, we were in a position where we were attractive to investors. So it shows that we're in a really strong position, and the future's really bright for everyone who works here. So it's really exciting times.
That's great stuff, and that sort of links into a session we've got later today where we talk about MBOs and financial backing and things, and so hear more about that later. But yeah, really interesting stuff. And again, so Mark, from your perspective, your kind of specific role, how does it all kind of tie in with this cultures, this people and productivity piece?
Well, when you read my job title there, I realised it's probably one of the longest in the world. For those who don't know, Copart provides remarketing and recycling services across insurance and automotive. So fundamentally, we help our customers get the most out of their vehicle assets. And my part to play in that is, well, the way I think of it is kind of twofold, actually. I have a sort of day job, a functional business role that I have to make sure from my customer's point of view and from my point of view, we grow value. But the other part of my role is all around leadership and culture, and helping embed that across the organization. So yeah, I've got a whole set of, as you'd expect, KPIs that I'm directly measured against in terms of my performance and productivity. And then from a sort of people and leadership perspective, really, I think, and part of why I'm here, and we're keen that all parts of the senior management team and others in the organization live the culture. So part of why I'm here today is to illustrate that we do that. All roles have a responsibility to make sure that the ethos, the behaviours, and the way we act as a business is instilled in everyone. So I think mostly probably think about the business side and the customer side, but certainly on a daily basis I measure my own impact and my own styles and behaviours and communications from a cultural perspective as well.
That's great. And again, seeing some great activity from Copart. I suppose over the past 12 months, and Jane, managing director there, getting heavily involved in the social media side of things, and the calls that have gone up, screen grabs of you internally having calls and stuff. And it's been great to see. And it's lovely to see from an organisation of your scale, getting involved in that capacity. So I'll come back to you then, Mark. So on that note, what is kind of the priority with the business and the people right now, and where do you start? How do you go about achieving it?
Well, if I could just pick up a point that you just mentioned in terms of the sort of size and scale of Copart, in contrast to the size and scale, the culture here feels, and it was something that grabbed me when I joined some 18 months ago. And this comes from the very top, the guy who runs the company. The culture here feels orientated around that family word, and I don't say that cheaply because it's easy to say, but if you are with Copart and on board and understand Copart's values, you absolutely get a sense of family. And that, given that we're in 22 countries around the world, to feel that on a daily basis is pretty impressive given the size and scale of the business. So I think from a cultural point of view, although we're big, and you're right to say we're big, we have incredibly diverse teams. Certainly in the UK, we've got a bunch of different disciplines, but an incredible close relationship both with the corporate business and with other businesses across the world. So it feels a really good family culture that is adopted. It's still run by someone who started the business. It is ultimately, although NASDAQ listed, a family business. So that permeates. From a priority point of view, and again, it probably sounds a bit trite to say it, but we are ultimately focused on driving more value for our customers, because if we don't give them what they need and what they want from that perspective, our business doesn't grow and our people don't benefit from our business growing. So, our focus has to be creating and delivering value for our customers first and foremost. And then, of course, as the reason for this session is that the thing that underpins all that are the people every day doing all the hard work to drive that value forward for the customers. So, I can go into a bunch of stuff we're doing. Maybe give Stephanie a chance to talk, because I love talking about and things. But yeah, we're not unusual to that regard. We put customers first, and then we know our people make that value happen.
Brilliant. We did say it was going to be a competition for the microphone between you two. So Stephanie, I mean, yes, a big business in terms of kind of the industry, the repair side of things, but nothing on the scale of Copart, essentially. No. So, again, priority for the business and the people right now, what are you kind of looking out for? How are you going about achieving it? I know you've got kind of exciting things in the pipeline.
Yeah.
More.
In terms of priority, I guess the priority is always our people. Because if you invest and look after your people, the customer will benefit from that. So I think at the moment, obviously with everything going on with the pandemic, etc., welfare, so employee welfare, making sure that whether people are working or not working, that they're okay. There's, we're doing quite a big awareness around mental health at the moment, and ensuring that people know that there's support here if they need it. If we can't offer it internally, we'll look externally if people need some support with whatever is going on in their lives. But also being flexible. So being flexible in terms of if people have challenges at home, people have had homeschooling with their children, or they've had to isolate because they've or they're caring for someone who might have to isolate. So I think it's about making sure that we're being flexible in terms of letting people be able to do what they need to do to get that work-life balance. And yeah, I will touch on Teacup. So we haven't launched it yet, but we're launching it on the 12th of April. So how are we trying to achieve how we can look after our people? It's an app that everyone will have on their phone, and they will answer some questions around welfare, for example. How are their relationships? What's their diet like? How much are they exercising? And it will pull back to me and the HR team reports on where people stand, might be struggling. And it in that case, we can then home in on that area. So for example, one of our sites, it turns out that they're not eating very well. So we can say, we might have to go in and, do a workshop on healthy diet or something like that. So it's about just being aware, and then taking the actions forward from that and doing something about it if we see an area of, where people might be not as well as we'd hoped.
It's really, really interesting stuff. And that, great use of technology, first and foremost. Teacup, I know of personally, and I'm sure others will look it up now. But and this isn't an advert for Teacup, by the way. Others are available.
They're not paying me.
But in terms of kind of embedding that within the business, and I know it's kind of yet to be launched, but how do you kind of spread the word that we're going to be implementing this and get the staff engaged with these kind of things?
I think that the pandemic has made people more aware of this. And I think the fact that we are looking at things like this for our staff, I think they will be very, I think they will love it, because it shows that we're investing in them. Because obviously, it's not free. It's something we're going to be paying for, but we see that as such, it's so important because it's looking after the welfare of our staff. So, the communication piece is going to be really important. And it is for them. It is a benefit for the staff. So, and they will probably, as it goes along, and they'll see that we will make certain changes or we might start doing certain things on the back of getting that information in. I think that the more we do that, the more people are going to become on board with it. But from the offset, I think the communication piece around this, we're doing this because we care. We want you to be okay, and I think that will go down really, really well with everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, and arguably a great deal easier when you've already got that kind of culture ingrained within the business. Yes, sorry.
Just pick up a couple of points that Stephanie had raised there. So one obviously is the welfare thing, which has been accentuated for sure through COVID. The other thing I think we've really worked on is about communicating. So like Stephanie was saying, making sure that our teams, as diverse as they are, you're talking about operational teams at the front line all the way through to professional services and skills teams, finance, marketing, and the like, sales teams. We have a very diverse set of people and teams, and we've been working hard at communicating outwards and downwards and across the organization, all about what we stand for, what their purpose is, their value, their contribution, driving that sense of belonging and value through a bunch of different communications, and welfare is part of that mix, right? We want our people to feel good about coming to work. A phrase we often use internally is kind of bring your real self to work, and that means open culture, it means diverse culture, it means a tolerant and inclusive culture. We have had to, given the pandemic and the lack of face time, we've had to really look at all the mechanisms we can use to cascade around and about the organisation. What is important to all those diverse teams. So we've used a bit of tech as well. So it's not right for everyone in every role, but where it works, it can work. And really, it's putting my marketing hat on. It's about finding the right route to get the message out, be that face to face, or as we've all come to learn and love using Zoom and the like. But the important thing for us is just up that communication, give that sense of purpose, clarity about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and create that sense of belonging and value.
Yeah, absolutely. And do you think on that point, well, Mark and Stephanie, we're kind of at the point that where we are, but as the world starts to get busy again, how do you kind of maintain that level of engagement? Is it because it's there and it's now ingrained, or do you have to continue to work equally hard at it, in the future? Mark, do you want to run with that one?
Yeah, I'll carry on. I'm just desperately looking at Stephanie, so in case you want to. Which is the wonderful kind of lack of body language of reading on digital, right? It's hard to work things out. So, back to the point I was making. Really, I think COVID really put some demands on us in terms of the way we think about people. You when you're meeting people face to face, you kind of take for granted that that's the interaction and that you're communicating and you're talking. And when a lot of that is removed and you go remote, not all of our teams are remote. We've had people working on the front line all the way through this. But where you do go remote, then you have to really think about how you can communicate and interact and still create that feeling of team. So we've done a bunch of stuff around all of those initiatives to focus on welfare. I mean, you mentioned it earlier on, the reality of working with someone and then seeing their cat on their lap is very different than when you're in a kind of office environment. And so oddly, we've got to know people a lot better over this period. We've got closer to them almost, even though we've been remote. But just making sure that they feel good about their environment, they understand what their role is. And we're going to carry a lot of that stuff forward. We've got a bunch of initiatives to celebrate success. For example, we run something called Superstars. Interestingly, in COVID times, I hate looking back in COVID times, but we like to look forward. But we had the highest number of nominated superstars internally, and that comes from people doing amazing work, above and beyond work. And I think celebrating success as an example of initiative, we've always done it, but it's kind of gone up a level given the realities of COVID. So those initiatives we will carry forward. We're super keen on creating an open culture from a communication point of view. Too easy to be 2 or 3 layers away from what's really going on. So we've done a number of initiatives internally to give everyone a better voice. Again, a little bit driven by the fact we're remote, but stood up some dedicated support lines or communication loops, different forms of meeting, just giving everyone, teammates as we call each other, giving every teammate the opportunity to share, tell, express frustrations, or if it's welfare or mental health, those sorts of things. We're doing, like Stephanie described, we're doing a mental health awareness drive at the moment. It includes formal training, but it's equally important to, as managers or even members of team, to have it in your mind that it's not all about just formal training. It's about how you listen and how you talk and the like. So yeah, a bunch of stuff that COVID probably helped us see differently, and now we've ingrained it, and we just continue with it, really.
Mm-hmm.
And Stephanie, I suppose same points to yourself. And again, as the business continues to grow, I suppose you've got to kind of keep those, beliefs, policies ingrained as you grow as a business and take on more staff.
Yeah, definitely. And I think a bit like what Mark was saying, like we are really keen to get back to those face-to-face interactions and engagements. So as for an example, as a HR team, I know that a lot of people hear HR and want to run away. We don't like that perception here. We want to go to the sites, not just to deal with an issue. We want to go to the sites to see people and just say, hey, how's it going? And we do have that real personal touch. So as an example, there's certain sites that I will go to and people get their phones out and show me pictures of their kids. And we love that. We like to make it really personal. So yes, COVID has prevented that. And we have had to manage with, phone calls, with written communication. We've done a lot of Teams, Zooms, all of that sort of stuff. And I don't doubt that will continue in terms of becoming more efficient. So rather than traveling to a site to see someone to do a meeting, we can do it electronically. However, we are really, really keen to get back to those face-to-face interactions as well, because what I've learned since I've been here is people really appreciate that, and not that they feel like just a number. If you actually go and see them, it's making it really personal. So we are really, I can't wait to get back out to the sites. It's going to be, really exciting.
Oh, that's great to hear. And that, that's very proactive kind of, HR management, isn't it? Rather than the reactive, when you bump into the person from HR, you're kind of know you've done something wrong. So,
exactly. I'd like to think that's not the perception here. I'm like bigging myself up a bit, but yeah.
So whilst we're on the subject of people, new sites, business development, how do you go about attracting new talent? And how important is it as a business like yourselves to kind of look for, new skill sets, alternative experiences? Mm-hmm. Do we, how far do you stretch that sort of pool that you look for people?
To be honest, I think what we did at ABL One Touch probably before, like about the time I joined. So I've been with the business 4 years now, and there are certain people that we started to bring into the business that were not from the industry, me being one of them. Reg, our head of finance, he's not come through from the industry, and it's bringing that different perception into the business, and it just brought a completely different, a different perception. However, what is really important is that when we came into the business, we didn't pretend like we knew what the actual job roles were about. So when you go to the workshops and you speak to the staff, not pretending that you know what their job is, they know best. They're the ones that have been in the industry for years. But it's about being enablers for them and being able to say, show them that we're here to help, and we're here to bring that different perception from other industries, which can be really helpful. But we also, more recently, we saw that there was a gap in terms of, if you went onto our website, there was lots of information about what we do. We repair cars. This is where our sites are. And as we were doing interviews, people were struggling to know what we were about to work for. So we created a separate talent acquisition website. So as you go onto our website, if you click on work with us, work for us, it's a completely different platform, and it's about our values. It's about what we're like to work for as an employer, it's actually really great. So recommend anyone to go and have a look at it if you want any ideas. But yeah, we found that that's been really useful since it's been running. So I've recruited a new person in my team, and every single person has commented on it because they'd been on and they'd seen it and they'd said, "Oh, it looks like a great place to work," and it shows our values, it shows our people. So that's a really great way of being able to attract staff to the business without them going to a website and looking at, "Oh yeah, I know what that company does." So I think that's going to be massive for us over the next going forward.
Yeah, and really interesting, I suppose, as we, all focus on the future, the evolution, if you like, that our industry is faced with. Whether it's driven by kind of technology and vehicle manufacturer side of things. We're going to be looking at a whole host of different skill sets, different personalities, people, experiences required, I'm sure. So it's a step. And Mark, same from your side, really. You've already referenced the business continues to evolve. So are you kind of constantly looking for, people, attracting new talent, and how does that kind of tie up with yourselves? We often hear of a skills gap, certainly from the repair side of things. Is the same evident within the remarketing and salvage side of the world?
I don't think we're motivated because we think we've got gaps. I think where we know from an industry point of view and a sector point of view, we know things are changing. Again, COVID has accelerated a lot of that change. But the reality is, for us, we've got to make sure that we're ahead of where we can be, ahead of what our customers need. And what our customers need from us is changing. And so some of the skill sets we need, therefore, are maybe new or different in terms of what we've had in the past. What we do have is an amazing existing team. I mean, it's not a coincidence that we are able to drive success for our customers, because the people in the business, do a fantastic job. But if you take something like big data or data science or automation, whilst we, from an auction perspective, are absolutely kind of ahead of the pack, excuse the advert, but we feel we are, we're ahead of the pack. There are areas of big data and data science, for example, that we know from a customer point of view, we need to be leading on. So, the technical skill space is becoming more and more pressing in all of our worlds. We have different operational needs. More and more we drive deeper compliance and regulation. That means environmental roles, it means health and safety roles, it means auditing. There's just such a variety of teams we have. We have to look at where we're going from a customer point of view and how we excel when we deliver those things from Copart's point of view. The thing I would say about getting people, and this is definitely not unique to Copart, is great people are sometimes hard to come by, or where skills are newer to the market, they come at a premium. And my own personal experience of joining Copart as an example, but what we know is that we really motivate talented people to join us if we can tell them and show them the Copart story. So a little bit like Stephanie was saying from the recruitment website, if we get an opportunity to speak to someone who we think is going to add value to Copart, bring a bunch of skills and talent from their point of view, if we can give that story, give them something to really understand about Copart. We're not a household brand, so they're not going to see it necessarily from the external view. Really sell that story of the success, how we put customers first, people first. And it moved me from a point of view of who's Copart to, wow, I literally cannot wait to join this place. And also in our story, we want all of our people to feel accountable, first of all, right? They're accountable for what they do, but also feel totally empowered to do their job. The last thing we want to do is have every single teammate in our organization asking upwards for permission or worrying about whether they should or shouldn't. So I was going to say sell the idea of empowerment. It's a reality. We are giving people the opportunity to add an immense amount of value through their talent and skills they've got to work within the appropriate parameters, but we want to give them that freedom and empowerment and sometimes autonomy to get on and do. So we build we sell a good story, tell a good story because it's true, but we still have to fight for talent. So it's not always easy.
Yeah. And I think if I can just add on to that, I think that from what people are craving at the moment is development. They want to be developed. They want investment. So we thought, how can we get that across? And as part of that talent acquisition website, we put on, employee journeys. So, where we have, invested in people, trained them and developed them. And it's commented on quite a lot. It's like, it's great that you want to develop. And going through interviews, it's always mentioned. People that's what they want. They want that. So I think if we can show that, and we're really, really passionate about that, about developing from within, making sure that if people want to get to a certain point, what can we do to help them get there? We make sure everyone has a personal development plan so that we can see what aspirations people have, so we can get them to where they need to be. And that's big at the moment. I'm seeing a lot of that come through.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that from Copart's sort of growth in the UK, that we've definitely started to emphasize that career progression. And I don't mean that has to be you start as an account exec and end up as a finance manager. It applies to whatever route of progression in whatever team you're in. So if I take something fairly close to my area of responsibility in terms of sales and managing our customers, driving value for them, those teams, historically have not really had that path made obvious and available to them. And certainly in the last few years, we've tried to do, as you're describing, bring in, it doesn't have to be always a formal path, but bring in that opportunity to learn. Formal training is a part of that, but so is experience. I mean, we'll drop people into projects that are not directly related to their day job, and that gives them an experience of something else and helps them to develop some skills that maybe in their day job they don't get an opportunity to learn and practice. So we're definitely on that journey of creating a path through, not always upwards, because it doesn't have to be always promotion to develop, but definitely through, from a career perspective, through onwards within Copart. And that, again, not unique to us, but something that I think we're recruiting. It's a competitive market, something I think is part and parcel of why join us, give you that opportunity to grow.
Fascinating stuff. I love these kind of takeaways that we're picking up here. And I suppose expanding on that a little bit, Stephanie, in terms of what you're doing in the business, how do you create that kind of pathway for people? I think it's always been a challenge within smaller businesses, if I can use that term, within kind of the repair side of the world. We've always said people enter at a certain discipline, and that's almost where they kind of get placed, and that's where they stay. So how do you create a kind of pathway for those kind of technicians potentially coming into the business or others?
Again, it's just making sure that we are meeting with employees regularly. So making sure these one-to-ones are happening, appraisals. I talked about personal development plans for everybody. Not everybody has one at the moment, but we're in the process of making that happen. But it could be, I'm going to give an example, like one of our model is that multi-skilled technician. So having that one-touch technician, and we see it all the time where it might be a painter says, I want to learn to do panel, I want to learn to do MET. So it's not necessary that they have to go off and do a formal course. We have people internally that we could say, okay, well, why don't we'll put that path so that in X amount of time, you'll be able to do everything. You'll be able to do that job start to finish. So like Mark was saying, it doesn't necessarily mean, not everyone comes forward and says, I want to be a production manager. Okay, if they do, great. We will make that happen for them in some sort of way. But it's just making sure that whatever we can do, whether it's external training, you can do a lot of stuff internally, just making sure that if we can do it for them, and most of the time we can, just making it happen and not just saying that we're going to do it and don't do it. I think that's a big part of it. And yeah, I think not everyone does want that. Some people are quite happy. They just want to come in and do their job, and they're happy working in a nice place with nice people. But it's important to recognise, by making sure that we do have these personal development plans in place for everybody, so that if they do have aspirations, that's their platform to say, right, let's put a plan in place, and let's put some timelines on it, and let's make it happen.
Absolutely. Yeah. And again, yeah, you touch on a really interesting point there that, kind of not everyone wants to, have a different role or take on a different job. Get really good at what they're good at and what they enjoy, and so I suppose more than anything, it's about that interaction, about that engagement with that employer, understanding them on an individual basis as what they really want from their role. So
definitely, and I think one of the things, it's not so much a case anymore, but one of the things that was happening is, in terms of a workshop, if we needed a production manager, it would be, okay, who's the best panel beater? He'll make a really great production manager. Throw them into the role, and they just don't, they don't have any support or management training. So that's something we picked up on, and made sure that if people want to become production managers or another type of manager in the business, great. What we can facilitate that, we will. But let's make sure we put the groundwork in place prior to that, because we don't want them to fail from the outset. So it's just that support function and making sure that we don't set people up to fail. And we give everything to them to make them succeed in that role. So I'm glad to say that we don't see that happening anymore, but I think it used to happen. And I don't think that's isolated to us either. I think that happens probably quite a lot across our industry and within other industries as well.
Yeah, sure. And Mark, I come across to you. So kind of linked to all of this is kind of, how do you optimize performance of an individual? How do you work that side of things on a one-to-one basis? What do you put in place? Is it measures? Is it reviews? Is it this career path? Is it a bit of everything?
I think from my perspective, a sort of common denominator really of all the people I've managed or teams or been managed, it starts with a sense of understanding of the purpose and the objective of that individual in their role. Without that kind of clear direction, call it leadership, or you can boil it down to just one or two simple lines that you make and talk about and make very clear, is that without that sense of purpose, without that sense of direction, you don't know where you're going. All roles are like that. Some roles are charged with creating that sense of direction, leadership roles, management roles. Other roles, you need to enable the individual to understand what we're going for and why that's important and the part they play in it. Sometimes, if you're in a role that's more administrative or support, it can feel like you're just doing a job. But you're an absolutely important component of the whole machine and cog, and make the whole thing work. So for me, it starts with that sense of purpose, and then also, I'll hold my hand up. Sometimes this part falls down, but communication, regular communication, giving access to me as a manager or others. Just give that opportunity to talk about how it's going. You can have all the formality alongside it, which, in some roles is really essential, because the success of that role is judged on, let's say in sales, are judged on key metrics, and reward comes from achieving those things. So yeah, the formality of objectives and targets and the like is essential in some roles, but in all roles, communication, giving that opportunity to understand what's going well, what isn't, support, as Stephanie mentioned, formal training. That stuff really matters. And if you can create a sense of empowerment alongside that, then as a manager, my job becomes easier, because people feel like they're heading for the outcome. They don't really have to tell me about all the things they're doing to get there, but they know what we need to achieve. They feel empowered to go for it. And hopefully that from a job perspective, they feel satisfied as a result, that they're in a good place. Couple a bit of development in there, a bit of different opportunities, and we're lucky, right? We have a bunch of diverse things that we do, so I think you can create a real sense of satisfaction. It doesn't work for everyone, though. There's that we look at the positive, but sometimes it's in the interest of everyone to have some tougher conversations, which are not easy. But if you leave things like that because they're not easy, inevitably what happens for the individual is it's a lot worse. So, we have to balance, the positive and the learning and development opportunities with sometimes some people are just, unable for whatever reason to do. But we move people around as well. Given the diversity of opportunity, we will definitely look for other things. And like I said, the formality of training is important, but experience is vital. And I say to some of my team, are you ready to present to the SMT? Do you want to present to the marketing teams? You start to give opportunity for development and growth. It doesn't always have to be the obvious things.
Yeah, great stuff. Steph, I can see you nodding in agreement with much of what Mark said there. Same thing at ABL.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we moving away from kind of training and development, I think, moving more back to engagement with staff and with employees. We actually have a culture team within the business that I head up. It's been going for a couple of years, but we have a culture team that meet on a quarterly basis. And the whole point of that culture team is to look at incentives that we can propose to the board that will improve employee engagement, make the company more attractive to people who may want to come and work for us. And obviously, if there's anything we can do to make it a better workplace for our staff and for any potential staff, that's what we're here for. And I think that's just been a real, it's been the driver for the culture over the last few years. And it's great. It's the part of it that's just really fun. And it could be things like, asking for an investment from the board for something like an employee benefit scheme, or it could be something, slightly more easier to implement, like we'll do an awards ceremony we did one at Christmas, or it could be organising a team building event or things like that. So that's something we continuously do to make sure that it's culture's not something you can fix and then think, oh, it's done now. It's a continuous thing that you have to keep touching it. So that's why we decided to have a culture team that with really passionate people that just want to do great things for the staff that work for us. Excellent initiative. Right, I'm very conscious of time, guys. Goodness me, we could go on for days with this one. I know, because I love this. So very quickly then, just to wrap up, give us one tip that any business out there could make a short-term positive impact on their team. Stephanie, go first. Okay, very quickly, the one tip I would say was introduce some core values if you haven't already, or if you have already core values, make sure that everything that everyone does within the business revolves around those values from the recruitment stage. So as an example, we have values questions in our interview packs so that we know if people are coming in, they're going to live our values. From, making sure that when we do appraisals or we have objectives for staff, they're around our values. We talk about our values all the time. We have them plastered all over the wall. We have water bottles. I haven't actually got one, but we've got water bottles that we give all our staff with our values on. So I think that the big thing that has shaped our culture is having everyone living to the values. Like that a lot. Mark, one from you.
I think I would just echo what I was saying earlier, really, just really vital to give every individual a sense of clarity and a sense of purpose. And if we do have, exactly as Stephanie was saying, we do have values, and actually one of our values is act like an owner. And that sense of clarity and purpose in that sort of context means that any individual can almost stand slightly taller and say, I can make a difference. I'm absolutely valuable to the organization. I know why I'm here. I know how I can help. The probably poor analogy I would use is if you have the best orchestra, violinists, cellists in the world, without the conductor, without their understanding of when they play, why they play, you've just got a very bad tune. So yeah, I'd bring it down to that kind of individually, just let people understand, their purpose, their value, and give them that clarity.
Fantastic. What a way to round this conversation up. As I say, we could go on forever because I love this stuff, but absolutely superb, guys. Thank you so much. Those people in the room, drop us a message. Let us know what you thought of the session. It's always good to hear when you're sat this side of the camera, as I say. Big thank you to round off all these sessions, obviously, to our corporate partners, BASF, BMS, CAPS, Copart, Emacs, Integral, Enterprise Rent-A-Car, Mercer, Nationwide Vehicle Recovery Assistance, S&G Response, and Sherwin-Williams, and our partners, Aztec, the Green Part Specialists, Indasa, Prasco UK, and the Innovation Group. And as I mentioned earlier, later on today, Where Now, so a similar kind of vein in terms of what ABL have been through, management buyout, and the team at IRG will be talking through their experiences, a bit of a fly on the wall, this one. Where do you start with these things and how does it all come about? And obviously from Thomas's side, what's a financial backer looking for from any type of business like that. Huge thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much for your time today. And likewise, Mark, been superb. Really appreciate it. And we'll catch up with everybody soon. Take care, all.
Thank you. Bye.